Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube art tutorial channel. I'm a professional artist working from my studio in Essex in the UK and painting plein air in the countryside. Well, as you can see, it's a very grey day here at Hutton-le-Hole. It's gone 4 o'clock so I'm going to have to work fairly quickly, but that's the fun of painting plein air. Varying things depict the speed in which you paint. Well, hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Chosen a lovely spot here in Hutton-le-Hole. It's recognised really as the gateway to the North York Moors, and I'm on the main green here and I'm looking at this subject. I like that lovely old tree with the war memorial, the buildings in the background. We've got the shop on the green, which is also very interesting. So I'd better put a drawing down and get started. Hope you enjoy watching. First thing we need is, well, it is a grey sky, but I'm actually going to give it just a little bit of colour to start, because I want to make it look as if there's a bit of sunshine, which there was earlier in the day. But to get my greys, I'm going to go with Windsor blue and Indian red to get the sort of bluey grey clouds that I'm looking for today. See that burst into that light air, into that damp area. And the good thing today, we haven't got too much in the way of it's not drying very quickly, so that is a bonus really. Now I'm just going to spread that off in all directions at this stage. Try and paint around the building and the like that with this large mop, and I'm painting over there like that, pulling that colour through, pulling that colour right down and over that tree. Notice I've been quite light over that tree because I want to show the film of light coming into this subject. Going in with a little stronger colour up the top there as it runs out of picture, but I don't want to overdo this strength of colour because of the day it was, and it was quite a nice. We just had the duck race here on the put it just splash of blue in. What happens to that? Oh, lovely, look at that. Just had the duck race here, and it's quite an interesting day really it's been. But now the crowds have gone home, gives me opportunity to creep back out onto the green to try and depict this lovely view. Now while I have that colour, I'm going to put in a little cadmium yellow into the palette with a little Windsor blue, Prussian blue would do it, and I'm going to sweep across because I want that nice colour running for the grass. There's a nice bit of colour on that grass, and it finishes, goes behind the war memorial and packs down like that. I'm going to go around at this stage the figures in the foreground, and just want to add a touch of the yellow. So I'm really sparking up the yellow in that distance because I want that to light up the subject. A bit more yellow there you go. It's not drying all that quickly, which I think will be of benefit for the end result, but that remains to be seen when we come to finish off. But that's the fun of painting plein air really. You know, you never know what you're going to get really. More blue now, and I'm banging in a bit more yellow. I want to pick up a bit of mood in the grass before I even start the main painting. Right, now it goes in a bit of red. There we go, my old favourite. You know me, always up for a bit of red here and there, just to give it a bit of strength really. But so far so good. Now while that's drying, I'm going to go in with the a little cadmium and a little Indian red, just to try and pick up the building. I'm going to go around the memorial to a certain extent. It's been a lovely day here at Hutton-le-Hole in North Yorkshire, and really enjoyed it. Great fun watching the duck race, children really enjoying themselves, which really is what it was all about. And just painting around the sign of the shop on the green, and like that. And as I go out of picture, add a little blue to that, just it starts to green it off, but we're not too concerned with that. I don't want that to be too brilliant. There we go. Now I'm just banging in a bit of red again, because I want one or two little areas to be slightly on the green grey. So a bit of blue and a bit of red. I can always do that at the end. There you go. Now I'm going to do the roof work, and that is going to be Indian red this time, because that's the colour I've chosen. It sort of fits really, I think, these buildings, and yeah, I think it does. It fits these tiled roof, lovely old, well, it's pan tiles really, not dissimilar to North Norfolk, which I'm just trying to pick up a little sense of the feel and the way the sun catches those at that angle. There we are, look at that. And then I'm finishing along the gutter line, and I'm going to take that right the way to the edge, but I'm not going to put in too many downward brush strokes. And that really sets the scene for the buildings. Now I've put some blue in, and I've gone much weaker, a bit more red, but quite considerably weaker for the trees that stand behind that main building that I'm depicting. Paint over the that large tree there, because that stands quite prominent. And then we have the Rydale Museum roof there, and we pull that in, lose it behind there, and there again, just a little more yellow this time, gone in just to lighten up the but it doesn't hold the strength that the other part of that building there, so it's considerably sort of lost in amongst the rest of the oh, and of course that Rydale Museum, which is quite important, but we're going to lose that. So that's yeah, that seems pretty good. Now I can detect some spots of rain just coming. I'm hoping I can get away with this, but in the meantime I'm putting in the dark trees in the background, and that's Windsor blue with burnt umber, Windsor blue, burnt umber, and a little cadmium yellow, but Windsor blue and burnt umber because these are quite dark. A little of the cadmium in there, and let's try to see if we can just get these in before we get stopped by the rain. It's the thing that when you paint outside that you do in actual fact need to work fast, and that's what I'm trying to do here. Whether the weather will beat me or not is another issue. I've known it before quite often. The weather, unfortunately, has a mind of its own, and it then runs off with some you have to just sort of go with the flow and say, well, I'm beaten. You know, it's beat me, I'm afraid. But at the moment, although I did just spot a couple of spots, I'm working my way through, and I'm going to live with it at the moment, because, in my opinion, I've still got a fighting chance of producing something that's worth capturing out here in the depths of trying to, whoops, just run that back up, that's all right. We don't worry, we're not worried. Well, even if we are worried, we say we're not worried. There you go. Now cleaning the brush, removing some of the moisture, and I'm going to scratch in, and it's a dry brush. The term is scratch, and the locals have had the cars out, and they're just going off from the pub, as you can hear. They were quite interesting too to see. Now I'm just scratching in with a damp brush, not a wet brush, and then as I get to the top of the roof of the building, then I'm going in to define the edge, and that's going to blend with that, so we don't actually see the difference between the two, really. So that's all worked pretty well. Well, as you can see, it's a very grey day here at Hutton-le-Hole. It's gone 4 o'clock. Now I'm going to put the memorial in with a fairly dark tone on the edge that technically is in shadow, a little bit of tapering to that, and there's an edge of shadow there, and there isn't any on that, and then we've got the right, yeah, we've got that in shadow, and we've got the lovely wreath there, memorable wreath, and that then finishes like that. Oh, and that's also in shadow, forgot about that. It is actually, yes. So that, just put that in just with a double thickness of colour, just to make it a little darker. Alright, allow that to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to put the chimney in, which is in quite strong sunlight, so we don't be too dark with this. Plenty of water, plenty of light colour, and let's get that in. That's light against dark, which is the key to the painting of some areas. And also we do have a chimney here that I never put the drawing in. It's actually in the background, I believe, but I'm putting the whole thing in more or less silhouette, really, because that'll be sufficient. That'll show up quite nicely. While I have this darker colour, bit more yellow going in, I'm just going to paint in the gable end there that I left out. It's going to put in the shadow directly onto that, but I've decided to just put a bit of colour in. Now I'm going to paint in the windows. So a dry brush, burnt umber with a little Indian red and a touch of Windsor blue. So they are the three main colours, mainly Windsor blue and an Indian red, really. And what do? Well, let's go a little stronger with that. A bit more red in there, a bit more blue just to darken it. There we go. Right, now the most strength of tone is in the glazing there, the glazing there, glazing there, and I'm going to put in the glazed areas, leaving the surround white at this stage. Whether I will give it a little bit of colour, that will depend on how things go. You know, that's the old thing. We work and we do the best we can with what we've got, really. And there's window there in the door, so we pull those in. We have a window above there with, luckily all my wet washes have virtually finished now, so if I do get a little bit of dampness, it's not going to cause me any major problem. Oh, and we've got a lovely window there, like that, and that's an opening. Oh, and we've got a lovely sort of like a glazed window here. But what I'm going to do to try and depict the fact that it's, there you go, and then I'm going to put that across like that, because that gives the impression that there's something going on in that window, which of course there is, because there's a display there. Now the door is open, right, but a bit more blue going in, and my idea of open doors is we have a nice opening like that, and I'm going to put plenty of red in that now, just to really strengthen that, so it gets really, really dark. Down this left hand side, because I'm depicting this as a sort of like late afternoon, early evening, which in effect it actually is. So and then in that bottom corner I just add a little bit of yellow to the colour and drag that colour down. Now I hope you can see that, because that gives an impression that that door is open rather than a glazed area. And then we just do a little bit to these, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got a slightly different shape of window there. This will be all about shadow, as you know, with my way of painting. And now I'm going in even lighter for the windows there, the windows there, not depicting these to any great detail, because as far as I'm concerned they've got to sit back behind this tree. So one there, one there. It's like a bay window, that is, believe it or not. Doesn't look like it, but hopefully it will reveal itself. There we go. And oh, we've got the Rydale opening for the got the sign there, so that's the opening to where you enter the museum. Right, so what I'm going to do with that again is to make it very, very dark in the top right hand corner, a bit more red in there to make it dark. Top left hand corner, sorry, but because it's an opening, it runs down into that and goes darker along the bottom there. So we'll leave that at that, I think. Now the memorial's dry, I'm just going to use pure burnt umber in a light form, just to depict the shadows, the sunlit side. Hopefully that achieves that, which I think by and large it has, which is always a bonus when you're looking at this sort of thing. Good, we're getting there. Okay, now I'm going to put this main tree in, burnt umber, a little Windsor blue going in, and so we're burnt umber, Windsor blue, and that sits like that. It's a big old oak, that there's a figure sitting there, just behind that. Leave the head perhaps, And then I'm just going to paint up, and we're sliding up, and then it splits off into a smaller, and then of course we've got that lovely old branch, and it actually slides right up like that and tips over the top. A lovely branch that slips out there. We've got loads of smaller branches. That one shoots off there. That one shoots off there. See the way I'm putting them in very, very freely and uneven, and not too much detail either, you know. We've got another branch coming there. It's a lot tucks back, really. Not sure where that goes, but we're not really worried. And then we've got another one there that splits at that point. Make certain they taper. Don't want them to get large too early. And then we've got another branch there. As the brush runs out of paint, that will mop that area up quite happily. And then it sprays out a little like that. And of course then we can see where the tree sits on the grass, or into the grass as such, like that. Then that reveals the actual gaps between the woodwork and also the steps there. There we go. And all of a sudden we've got ourselves a bench around the base of the tree. Now while it's still a little damp, I'm going to bite the bullet and go in very, very dark. There's burnt umber and wings of blue, but I'll put a bit of Indian red in because I need that to show up quite dark down that back edge. And if I can just catch that before it dries too much, we can get a lovely feeling of a bleed of colour. Now most of the really dark areas will be in the lower part, so that comes down like that, comes down like that. It is a winter tree, spring tree, although it's yet to bloom at all or blossom. Not blossom, but it's yet to show any leafing as such. And then that goes under like that. There we are. Good. We'll leave that at that. So that's the subject in hand. Well, that's the subject in hand. Bring that up a little. And this is the actual watercolour that I'm working on. Okay, well I've put in the two figures, bit of the bench work and the wreath, and I've just added a bit of colour to the shop sign there, shop on the green, and let me just put that in its rightful green colour, if I can, because I haven't done the drawing, the actual drawing for this, so whether I can pick it up or not, I don't know. Shop on the green. There you go, shop on the green. Very loosely popped in. We've also got an opening here for the serving hatch there. They were serving ice creams earlier on. Just going to go in with some really dark stuff at the top there and down the left, just to show an opening. But other than that, oh, and the figures, right, dark brown for one hair there, and the other hair we'll leave, and then I'm adding a little of the yellow, of the Windsor blue for the trouser legs as the figure sits there like that. And the other one, I'm going to give that figure a bit of brown, really. Like that. And that's the two figures. Just before I put in the shadows, I'm just going to depict with a dry brush the outside budding that this tree has at this time of the year. So it's the buds really that are just opening. It's a bit denser in places, mainly on the outside edge, but of course it's also hanging down there like that. Let's come up the top and enclose that top in a little. Mustn't forget that it is a tree, so it mustn't be too uniform. It's growing at certain angles like that. A little bit darker now, gone in with a little darker colour, more in the heart of the tree and just where it overlaps that building. Just a little bit there. Yeah, it's quite dense really overall, to be fair. And that's going to hang down that side as well. It's going to hang down there, and then we've got some touches of it hanging down there. I think that's okay for that tree. Well, now it's shadow time. Now I'm going to use Windsor Blue, could use Prussian, with the alizarin crimson. Now, not use this on this painting up till now, but it's going to be more blue than alizarin. And first thing we've got the gable end there, and do you know I'm going to go darker than that, so I'm adding a bit more colour of both. And do you know I'm going to add a little yellow to that, just to make it a little bit more pungent. I think that's the word really I'm looking for. Give it a bit more strength. There you go, look at that. Particularly for that gable end there. And this gives it all strength of tone. So the sun is coming from the left, so it casts a shadow there. We will have a shadow down the left hand side of the window reveals there, across the top and down the left hand side there, and of course the door reveal as well. Come like that, and immediately we show a feeling, a sense of light catching this lovely old building here in Hutton-le-Hole. We've got the undersides there and down there, and of course running up the chimney like that and across the chimney a touch. Then we do have shadow that's actually cast on a little part of that area there, and that comes at a bit of an angle, so I shouldn't have come down too far with that, but there you go. Let's just elaborate on that. That's good. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that at all. Good, so that's that. Now down the left hand sides of these window reveals, just a touch on the edge of that opening there, and across the top as well. We'll do a little bit there. The underside of that window, and just going to quickly just put in one or two little touches just to highlight that window. A little bit down the back edge there, and of course we've got underneath the sill of that window like that. We've got underneath the sign that stands away a touch, so that goes like that, and of course down the right hand edge. Good, that's pretty much mopped that up. Now a little less intense but none the less important the windows either side. Notice how I'm trying to, do we have a sill? Well, we do now. It's always important to give the feeling of light with whatever sort of whatever you can actually. And there's a blackboard there, so that's going to go in as well. And of course a little bit on the undersides of those windows where the sill is really. Oh, and the door there has some a bit of a reveal there, so that finishes like that. Now I've got to shade the background building, right? Now to start with, I've got an overhang shadow there, and this is going to be done, it should be far weaker than that. Let's lift a bit of that off. There you go, that's better. And then we've got the gable end, but other than that, this is all in shadow. So I need just a drop more water, but no more paint, because that has got to be all in shadow. Look at that. You've got to have the guts to put this in, because if you haven't, you're never going to achieve the result that you're looking for, really. Now we have a casting shadow from the overhang there. Am I going to? No, I'm going to leave that in sun. So we've just got a casting shadow at that angle across the building like that. There we go. The hedge there, that's in shadow, and a little bit of shadow underneath. There we are. Immediately that building sits back, this one comes forward. It's exactly what I'm looking to achieve. Now I'm putting a shadow across there just to give a sense of light. Just 1 or 2 little touches there so it's not too... Right, now we're going in with some darker shadow now for the shadow cast from 1 or 2 little touches here and there. Just sweep that through. There you go. That gives a jagged edge just with the finger. Little daff's just finishing, but they're within the shadow area, so that's, we're not too worried about that. Do you know I'm going to go in one colour, one wash extra for there and there, and of course there, like that, and casting shadow which runs across like that. Yeah, I can live with that. Got to. It's there. Right. Now we're going in on the underside where these figures sit. There, like that. And that lovely tree would cast a very large and very long, but it would open up pretty quickly. So that's what we've got to try and depict, the way that shadow opens up as it comes across the landscape, the grass, like that. And that has to be done very quickly, very freely. And I'm going to take a chance and just, there we are, the figures are now in shadow. That's the way I see it, and that's the way it's going to be, I'm afraid. And immediately that lights the whole place up, really. Then in the foreground, a bit more blue, a bit more yellow, because I want the green grass to show shadow here in the foreground. As you know, it's my favourite little thing to do. And then I'll just blend that through, because you must have this foreground shadow, and that is going to be in shadow right the way across there for some unknown reason. That's what I do go mad with my shadows, I know that, but I'm hoping that at the end of the day helps the look of the whole thing. That's what I'm trying to achieve. Now just a little bit of light shadow, a little bit of softening of the right, so that's that. I'm just working out now where things are and where I want shadow and where I don't actually. A little bit there, bit of weak shadow there, and just a little bit of weak shadow there. Touch on that area there, just to try, if I can, to enhance the film of light on that building, which I think that's probably done it. Now I've just pulled in a little bit closer just for the finishing bits and bobs. Brown and red and blue of the same colours that we've used before, because this is going to be the very dark gutter area. So we're going to put a gutter in there, very just one or two little touches really that that will hopefully help to depict the you know, the little architectural features perhaps that so it runs across there like that. Be very careful when you put these gutters in, you don't put them in too dark. And that's running in there, it's misting up, so that's nice. Just to show a little of the uneven touches on the roof, I'm just dotting along the edge there, see that? Because of these pan tiles, got to be very, very simply done, but I think it helps. But some artists don't do that. And one, two little touches. Let's just go in with a bit more brown now, and a bit of a drier brush for these little areas, because we don't want too much of this shown. But it's vital that some of it is, and when you can see the way your brush forms and shapes, that's when you know that you're actually getting some depiction there of what you're looking at really. A little bit extra shadow for those figures. Let's see if this is dry. Doesn't really matter, but nice if it blurs a bit. There we go, a bit of fencing there. Simply painted in. There is some fencing here, but I do feel I fear it's still damp. But I'm just going in anyway. There we are. Just so it goes out of picture, that'll blur off. Because it's out of picture, it doesn't attract the eye. And that is the idea that I use. Well, that's what I hope to convey to you really. The importance of highlighting some areas, shop front, and low lighting the other parts of the buildings really, because that's got a bit more red, a bit more yellow. Let's see if we can, a bit more red. Let's just move to another part of the palette, because I want to just indicate a touch of the ridge tiles there, and also a bit of the edge of the ridge tile there, and of course this edge as well. It will be quite interesting actually, quite uneven edge, and that is the way I'm going to depict that. Just simply nothing too fussed. Then I'm going to go quite dark then, just there, to pick up that ridging in the form of simple little brush strokes. And it's all bitty, not particularly well formed, but there is a separation there between the two. There we go. And that is almost there. Just got to sign up. So I'm going to take the surround away. Well, normally finishing touches consist of very light washes really, and that's more or less what I'm putting in here. Putting in two little light red washes actually, which I think will help the overall feeling of that roof and bring that into real strong sort of light, which I'm hoping will really enhance that. And the further you get away from the focal point, then the less the red you need. Once that dries, it'll be about right. Also, these buildings need just a little bit more attention. Just giving a hint that there's some slightly darker colour within that, particularly down those corners. Touch there, like that. Two little touches there, just to give a sense that we've got stone. That's what I'm trying to achieve there. I think that's enhanced. And of course, it's always nice to, in places, just soften it so that you've not got too many hard edges, and not so much on the outside of the painting as well. There we are. Now I really need to strengthen this shadow up from the tree. That's not quite strong enough in my opinion. So more blued, a bit more red, Indian red this time, just to show a real strong light coming from that tree, and that's sweeping across this foreground and under, running towards the back, like that. Yeah, a bit more water and a bit more paint, and we'll bring that in to pick around there now, because I've removed the tape. So that's running like that. There you go. And that comes right the way down into the foreground. And you'll notice immediately, hopefully, that you end up with a nice sort of wash of colour that enhances that foreground and gives a sense of real shadow against the buildings that are lit up, like that. And I'm going to darken these as well with a similar colour, same colour basically, overwashing like that, a little bit running up there, just to add a bit of interest to that part of the building. And a bit more red and a bit more Prussian blue, which will really strengthen up the memorial there, like that, like that. Really stands out then in strong light, which is always a good thing to do. but I'm keeping the actual wreath in sunlight at this moment. I have to just think about it before we do too much to that. A little bit darker there, a little darker touches there. We are. Also just fancy sweeping a shadow in here a little bit more, finishing there and pulling it across at that angle, and that will sleek away like that because it's a bit of a slope there. I just want to show where that slope sort of finishes there, cuts in there, and then damp brush the rest of it so it blends quite nicely, hopefully. There we go. That gives that a little bit more strength, plenty of light there, and I think that's pretty much the finished painting. Well, I've got the brolly up now because we've just started to have a little bit of rain, but as you can see I've touched in the a little bit stronger in the tile work, a little bit stronger in the shadow work, a little bit of detail hinting at different stages of the stone work in its different aging process, and so yeah, I'm pretty much happy with that. Well, if you've enjoyed watching, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope you enjoy perhaps having a go at this one, and in the meantime, happy painting. We'll see you next time.